Hey everybody, it's Matt from Eastwood Company. We're here in the Eastwood Garage. Happy day after Valentine's Day. Today is Wednesday and we are doing some tech for you guys. For any of you that haven't watched one of these before, I want you guys to log in, join the chat, and ask us questions. We have Randy today over on the chat.
How's it going, Matt? How was your Valentine's Day?
I went to visit a friend in the hospital, so it wasn't as exciting as I would hope, but it was good.
Now I feel bad for asking.
That's all right.
Well, on another note, if you have any questions, post them in the comments on Facebook or YouTube, and I'll answer them. I'll throw them back to Matt, and he can answer them.
Let Randy know how your Valentine's Day was in the chat there.
Yeah, I'm very interested in how everybody's day went.
So, today we're going to cover a little bit of one of my favorite rust products that we offer. I use this quite a bit in my shop at home, and we use it a lot here when we're doing some work. So it's our Rust Dissolver line. So we have our gel Rust Dissolver here, and we have just our standard Rust Dissolver. This one I have already in a drain pan over here. But the Rust Dissolver, the nice thing about it is with the submersible that we're using here, you can just drop a part in there, whether it's small or large, and just let it sit, and it does the work for you, which is really nice. So you don't have to actually, you don't have to spend the time either media blasting or grinding it or sanding it. You can just drop it in here, and it does the work for you and gives you nice virgin steel, which is really good, obviously. So I dropped a couple parts in here ahead of time, and I wanted to show you guys how it works, and I'll give you a couple tips and tricks for doing this along the way. So when you have something that's heavily rusted, that like these headers here that have been sitting out for ages, getting rusty, and even media blasting them takes a little bit of work. If we were to media blast these, it's really tough to get in all the tight crevices and cracks in this, and you're never going to really be sure if you got all that rust out of there. With something like this that you put it actually in a liquid, you can be sure that it's getting in every crack and crevice, and it's getting all of that rust off of that. So I put this in here just before lunch to let it sit. So this hasn't been sitting for days or anything like that. And I just let this section in the bottom here sit. So I'm going to pull this out and show you guys where we're at. So Joe will probably dive in here and show you where we're at. And I haven't really even pulled this out in a while. So there's the section that I had sitting. I think I probably put this in, I don't know, it was maybe a little before 12, 11:30, somewhere in there, and just let it sit. I mean, I didn't do anything. I didn't sand this. I didn't wire wheel it or anything. And you can see we're well on our way to having this cleaned off. And this is nice, clean. I mean, this is as good as new. And you can see even the stuff that you're seeing rust on there, that stuff is actually just ready to come off. It just hasn't washed off on its own yet. So what we can do, if you have a part like this, and you still, maybe there's some spots like this that you're not sure if the Rust Dissolver is taking it off. This isn't the gel, this is just the normal liquid. So what we can do is I'm going to put it here, move our vat of rust removal goodness out of the way here. So this, the nice thing about this is reusable. So I dumped the whole entire bottle, except for the little bit we have here for small parts, in this drain pan for this demo. I can put a funnel back on that bottle, drain it back in. We can reuse it over and over and over again. The worst that happens, and I'll put this closer so Joe can probably get in here. But you can see there's a little bit of rust residue that's floating around there. You may have to get closer and up above here to get it. I don't know if you can get there, but so I'll push this closer for you. And so you guys can see there's a little bit of, there's some rust residue that's, of course our lights are, but right in here there's some. That's all that really happens. You just get a little bit of rust residue in it that, but otherwise, you can keep using that over and over and over again. The other thing is you can strain that out. So if it does have some heavier pieces of rust, you can just strain those right out, and it's no problem at all. So here's our piece, close up. like I said, it looked like there was still some rust on here, but in reality, all I'm doing is just rubbing this here, my hand, and it's coming right off there. So what I like to do to see where we're at is put some glasses on here since we're spraying. I take some pre, and I'll just spray some pre on there, just to get any residue off. So whether this is your final treatment of this, or you're just checking kind of where we're at. So I'll just hit it with some pre. And you can see, I'll turn this a little bit so you guys can see. You'll see that actually some of these rust pieces will just fall right off. It's just knocking them. So you can take a wire brush here. You can use pre, but it's taking all of that right off just by spraying some pre. So that was only, a short period of time. This is pretty rusty, and we can wipe it off. We could do another pass if we'd like, or you can just hit it, like I said, with a wire brush or something like that. It'll take it right off. So once you hit it with the pre, and you take the pre, or you let the pre kind of dry or dissolve there. This is one note, and this is something that I think some people don't realize. This is as close as it gets to clean virgin steel. So what that means is if we take this part here and we just leave it overnight in the shop, especially if you have a shop that isn't climate controlled, what you're going to find is this is going to turn to surface rust really quickly. Even just sitting, if your shop is kind of damp, just even in an hour or two, you may start to see a brown residue start forming on this. So what I like to keep around, we have our our afterblast. So I'll move the bottle over here. So you can wipe this on. You can wipe it on, or you could spray it on. So it comes in. You can buy it in this gallon container. I just have just a normal little plant sprayer or whatever you want to call it here. So I dump some of that in, and we can just spray down the part. So what this afterblast is going to do is it's going to coat the part, and it's going to leave a phosphoric coating on this so that it's not going to flash rust on it. So it's going to clean it off a little bit too, and it's going to also leave. Let's get some pumping action here. All right. So we can start spraying this down. And we know that this area, it's going to let it sit, and it's going to put a phosphoric coating on it. So that is really, really handy. So if you have something you're working on, a lot of times I'm stripping items so that I can do a repair or work on them later. So you may strip it, and then it may be a week or two till I can even get to this part. So what we'll do is just spray it with the afterblast, let it sit and dry, and then we know that that part's going to be good till the next time we use it. And so that's our larger part here. Now, if you wanted to do this whole entire set of headers here, and you didn't have a drum or whatever, or you don't want to buy multiple gallons of that, even though we'd love you to buy a 55-gallon drum of this, it may not be cost effective. So a little trick you can do is you can take the gel rust dissolver here. So you can take the gel rust dissolver, pour it all over our header here, and then what you do is you take some plastic wrap like this, whether you got a big roll like we have here of this plastic wrap, where you take some shrink wrap. Doesn't really matter, but you can take that and you can wrap it around the part really tightly. So what that does by doing that, so you can put it around the part like this, wrap it up, make sure you kind of have everything closed off as much as you can. So if we were doing that section there with the gel rust dissolver on it, then you can wrap some painter's tape or some duct tape around it just to seal it in. And then that's going to help it to keep it from evaporating. So if we didn't have this on here, it may evaporate and you have to reapply a number of times. So that's a little tip. Use the gel rust dissolver, put it on there, either dump it on or you can brush it on, and let it sit. Wrap it in plastic and wrap a little tape around the ends, and then just let it sit overnight. When you take this off, you can just hose it off with pre or the after blast, and you can then have nice clean metal. So that's what I do for the larger parts. You can do this on deck lids. You can do this on any body panel you want, as long as you have enough material that you keep it fully coated. That's one of the keys that we come across. Sometimes people have problems with getting certain areas off. And what it ended up being is that there wasn't full coverage of it. It needs to be on there, fully covering the metal to take the rust off, to dissolve it away. So that's a key for that. So if you have small hardware, this is probably my favorite use of this product is if you have small hardware, what you can do is I just get a little mixing cup like this. Whoop, there we go. Little mixing cup like this. I put just a little bit in there, and then you can drop all your small hardware. So if you're one of those guys that's doing a restoration where you want to use all old hardware or original hardware, this is great for that. So you can take all those old rusty nuts and bolts or hardware and drop them in here. So this is a little battery hold down that was really rusty, and we got another one in here. So what I did is I dropped it in again, same time as I dropped in this other stuff. This wasn't sitting overnight. This has been sitting for a short period of time. So I'm going to take our sacrificial pliers here, not really, but put them in there, and you can see, I mean, that's as clean as you're going to get with blasting it. The nice thing about this is sometimes with blasting, you're going to put a little profile on the metal or on the surface. So with this, it's not going to harm the surface. You're not going to hurt anything. It's not going to create you extra work. So if this is something that we wanted to eventually mirror polish in the end to have it plated, we don't have to media blast this and then work our way back up to a smooth surface to polish it to then plate it. We're already ahead of the game here where we can start, the rust has been removed, we can start sanding going up in our grits and eventually be to a point where we can polish it. So this is I'll spray it off and then we'll have a little before and after here that you guys can see. So this is a small part. I'm just going to use the after blast to kind of rinse some of the junk off here. Let's get some of the excess off so you guys can have a little before after. So that wasn't a lot of time. That was just a couple hours of it sitting in there, and it was probably that nice within hour and a half with really no work. So the great thing about this is you can just take a giant handful of hardware or small pieces like this, brackets, just drop them right in, and we went from having a part that looks pretty cruddy and horrible to something that's, can almost pass as a new old stock part if it was replated again. So that's really, really nice. So the other thing I have in here, that if you guys are trying to do, whether it's a part or it's a car in general, that you're trying to keep original paint or you're trying to maintain it, but it has rust, like the little rust pits on it that you've seen. If you have an old car that's got original paint but maybe has some little rust specks showing through the paint and you're trying to treat them or do something with them but you don't want to damage the original paint, if you have good solid paint, what you can do is you can put some of this rust dissolver, whether it's the gel. If it's a small part, of course, you can drop it in. If it's larger, you have to do the gel. But what I want to show you guys here, this was all rusty in this whole thing. But you can see the paint on this is not harmed. So, and this is actually, I wouldn't call this good paint, solid paint, but this is, wipe it down a little bit so it's not as coated here. But you can see these areas that were just covered in rust, where the paint flaked off and we started getting heavy rust there, we were able to get rid of all that heavy rust. The paint is still around it, and we can then treat it from there, whether you use a fast etch or you use if it's a car you're trying to keep the original finish on, you can touch it up with some of our clear rust encapsulator, and that will keep that from rusting again, but will still keep that patina look if you're looking for that. then on the back side here, where it was much heavier, I didn't spray that, but I'll spray it real quick. So on the back side here, where it's much heavier, you can see how it's taken all that off, which is pretty cool. So I think that I like this for doing, if you're trying to have something that you're trying to keep the original paint on there, you can save it if it's decent paint. Now, if you have paint that's already flaking and falling off, like this stuff here, I'm actually surprised that is still sticking on so good. But that is just fine. So again, this is reusable. You can, I don't know if we can get a shot underneath there. But you can see the residue kind of, there we go. You can see the residue at the bottom there. So what you can do is you can reuse this. So it ends up naturally just, because it's a solid, the rust is heavier, it sinks to the bottom. So what you can do is use a little funnel with a strainer, and you can dump this right back in, and you got fresh, good rust dissolver that you can continue to use. So this isn't something you buy and you do one, a handful of bolts and it's junk after that. You can continue to use this product, which is really nice. Any questions as I'm going through some of this?
Yeah, we have one question.
Sure.
Can it be used on softer metals like copper, brass, or aluminum?
Okay, good question. So yes, this product is safe to use on aluminum or copper or brass if you're having like a tarnish, or like aluminum, if you've ever seen the white corrosion that occurs on aluminum for something that's really been sitting for a while. It will also work on that as well. So you can drop that in there, let it sit, and it will also take care of that as well. The same as this, and it's not going to harm the surface, which is really nice. Definitely a tip, make sure you're wearing gloves. This is a chemical in the end of the day. I was putting on gloves as well, so when I'm spraying, if it splashes, you want to keep it away from your eyes. The other thing is, don't wear your nice Sunday school outfit, because this stuff will stain. You can see just on this paper towel here I was using earlier, you can see all the discoloration. That's going to be your fancy Gucci Sunday suit if you get that on there. So don't wear that. I don't really have any nice clothes, so I don't worry about it too much. So it's not an issue. Yes, this will ruin your day if you got your favorite band T-shirt on, like Metallica or Iron Maiden or something like that, when you saw them live in tour. You got a couple of them? What? Oh. Live tour shirts that you cherish?
Yeah, I got a Danzig one from when they were on tour with Metallica and Suicidal Tendencies back in the 90s when they played at the Allentown Fairgrounds.
And that was skinny Danzig.
Yeah, he was still short though. And it was very scary. So, yeah, but I cherish that one.
That's an awesome one.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's one of the definite tips, is make sure you keep it away from your clothing so it doesn't, if you're wearing something, because it will do the same as like bleach. It's going to discolor your clothes, and that is a problem. So hopefully you guys can use some of the benefits, see some of the benefits of using the rust dissolver. If you are doing a project, it's good to get both the gel and the liquid rust dissolver, because that will kind of cover you whether you're doing a large project or you're doing small. I've done with the gel rust dissolver a whole door skin. Put it on, put the plastic on, let it sit, and it takes off all that rust, and it creates a lot less work. So that's why I usually like to keep both gallons of that in my chemical cabinet at home. So any other questions at all? Otherwise, that was
it.
My quick tip for today. So thanks, guys, for watching. As always, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday at 3 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, we're doing live tech sessions. If you guys have any future topics that you'd like us to cover, or products in general, make sure you drop us a line on the comments on YouTube or Facebook, and we will put them down and try and do them for you in the future. Thanks, guys, for watching. Have a great week. I'll catch you later.